First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
He is the chief physician executive at MVHS, Dr. Kent Hall. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning. So I have a question for you.
Oh, great.
What is the largest organ in the body?
The largest organ in the body.
I know this.
So do I.
Skin.
We all knew
you
it.
got it.
We all know it. All right, Doc, we're sentencing you.
Except people have said mine is way much thinner. I don't know. I've heard that.
That is true. I've heard that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what I mean is, it's true that I've heard that.
Yes, you have.
You have a thin skin.
I think
I've heard that you have one.
Trust me, my skin is pretty darn thick. Yeah. Okay, Doc. Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, good morning. How's everybody doing this Friday morning?
Well, my outlook's great with the CDC announcement. I know it's not in effect yet, and I want to mention that. A couple people messaging in. Make sure you tell people, because they're seeing people walk around with no mask now saying, hey, CDC said so. But I think a lot of people who are vaccinated feel like, okay, now I can see the light.
Yet it is a little difficult because we've been told things that are much different. So what's your take on all this, Doc?
Yeah, so I think, I will say that I think that the CDC does really good work, and I think that they are a very conservative group, and by conservative it means that they try to avoid risk as much as possible, because they feel like the entity and the people that work there, feel like they hold the lives and the health of our nation in their hands. And so they have been conservative in terms of giving out recommendations. I think that they are realizing that the science really does support people who are fully vaccinated, especially outdoors. And honestly, people even who are not vaccinated outdoors, as long as you're not like in a big crowd together, it's probably reasonable to not have masks on. And indoors, it's also reasonable for those vaccinated to not wear masks. It is still reasonable for people who are not vaccinated that they should be wearing masks, because they still have the opportunity to transmit to other people who are not vaccinated.
Yeah.
And we know that that's 50% of the population. So or so. I mean, it's different in different areas, but roughly about 50%.
You can't help but think though that this was done because they're weighing the negatives on both sides. So the negatives on over here are people not wearing a mask. But the negatives over on the other side are people not getting vaccinated. So if you can live with the risk over on the left, we'll be far better off if people get vaccinated. Do you feel like that played a little bit of a role in this?
I would be surprised if it didn't.
Yeah.
There has to be some calculus. I mean, science is science. It is, granted, it is imperfect. We do not know everything about this, as we've said many times. But there are other aspects to it, and if the science tells you, as much as it can, then you have to look at the other aspects and factor those into your overall equation.
Yeah.
And I think that that's being done also. And arguments are going to be made about, it should have been done, a month ago,
right,
2 months ago, whatever. And I'm honestly not going to engage in those arguments, because I don't think it's helpful. I think that what we're doing now and going forward is the right thing. I think that you're right. I think that this gives people even more incentive to go out and get vaccinated, because they can start to return even more to a quote-unquote normal life.
And what the CDC is saying is that the reason this is now, the reason we've made this decision now, they say is because there's enough data so that they are able to now come to the conclusion based on the success of the vaccination. So, you got to take it for, if this is what they say, that's what they
Right,
I take it for face value.
They're accurate. I mean, they are absolutely spot on with that statement because the science has been coming out more and more again over a period of time that says that the vaccines work. Number one. Vaccines work for a period of time, full period of time, still yet to be defined, but they certainly work for a period of time, so that's two. And number three is that even with the variants, that the vaccines are still effective. So when you put all of those things together, you say vaccines are good, vaccines work, let's see if we can loosen things up, and then add to that the fact that the caseload has been going down, and going down pretty significantly over the last 3 or 4 weeks, then it's like, okay, so now we know that we're also going in the right direction, most likely related to the vaccines. I would say 90+% related to increasing vaccination rates as opposed to, because we haven't done anything else. It's not like we, put in additional mandates for distancing or other hygiene things. So really this is about the case rate going down is really about vaccines.
Earlier this morning, Harry called in and so for some clarification, when you hear people tout the Johnson & Johnson, they say, it's only 70%, has only a 70% efficacy rate, but it has almost a 100% chance of efficacy when it comes to preventing people from being hospitalized and getting a severe case of the virus. And then you make the leap as opposed to Pfizer and Moderna. But he's saying that Pfizer and Moderna also have that same protection. And I kind of didn't think that was the case. I thought that with Pfizer and Moderna, you still had a 5% chance of getting it. And that could be a mild case. It could also be a case that you could wind up in the hospital.
Yeah, no. So he's actually correct.
Okay.
So if you get the Pfizer, Moderna, or Johnson & Johnson, you basically have, based on the information that we currently have, you have essentially almost 0% chance of getting severe disease that requires hospitalization, ICU treatment, things like that. So the 5% comes from the fact that there are 5% of people who will not gain immunity. We don't know what we believe that those people still gain or do not gain full immunity. We still believe that they have some degree of protection and will probably not have as severe disease. But I'm not as comfortable saying that 5% has 0% chance of having severe disease.
So that's very interesting because when you say the 5%, that is 5% of those people will not have full immunity. That does not mean, and this is where I think we all get confused, at least I've been confused, by the 95% for those two. That 5% does not mean if 5% will get the virus. It means 5% might not have immunity. Those
Correct.
are two very different things because there's still a percentage out there of whether or not they're going to come in contact with the virus. Mm-hmm. So that changes. I think we're deceived a bit by that 95%.
Yeah, when you hear the number, you really have to drill down to understand what it means. So this is what it meant, okay? So that comes from the original studies that they used to actually give to the CDC and the FDA to approve the vaccines, and what they said, or to give them their emergency use authorizations. So what they found was that there were 20,000 people that got the vaccine, 20,000 people that got a placebo shot. And when you looked at those populations, there was a percentage of the placebo that got the vaccine, and it was whatever the percentage was. I don't have that number off the top of my head. When you look at the people that got the vaccine, what you found was that only 5% of the people that got the vaccine relative to the people that didn't get the vaccine ended up getting infected. So it became let's say that there were 200 people that got sick of the 20,000 that got the placebo. That means that only 10 got sick, ended up testing positive for the virus, and had symptoms of the 20,000 that didn't get that did get the vaccine. So, of those 10, nobody had significant disease.
Fair enough.
Okay, I just want to mention...
and then, Patty, I'm going to get to you coming up here.
You can go to ocgov.net. There's a full schedule Monday, Tuesday. There's a couple of vaccine clinics going on next week. These are all throughout Oneida County. Schedule up. Make your appointment if you haven't yet, ocgov.net. Just very quickly...
And SUNY Poly is walk-in right now.
It says for some of them it's Pfizer, it's Moderna. In parentheses, one of them says Janssen. They mean Johnson & Johnson, or is Janssen something else?
That's Johnson & Johnson.
Okay.
Patty is in Vernon and has been waiting with a question. Hi, Patty. You're on with Dr. Kent Hall.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. Hi. I have a question.
Okay.
My mom is 93 years old. She survived COVID. She's in a nursing home. She survived COVID this winter. But now she has a strange, I think it's a side effect. I'm not sure. That's what I'm wondering. But she has lesions on her skin that they almost look like wounds. They're tiny, but they look like moles, but then they'll fall off, and they look like, and then it repeats itself. I just wondered if Dr. Hall's seen anything like that before, a side effect. I'm going to hang up, okay?
Okay, you hang up and listen on the air. Thanks, Patty. I appreciate that. Doc, what do you think?
Yeah, so it could be. There are a lot of manifestations, and there are a lot of skin manifestations of it. I would recommend that she go and have those checked out, because I wouldn't want to, land on, this is probably related to COVID, and have it be actually another ongoing infection that could be treated. So I would recommend that she be seen and evaluated. But yes, certainly there are very atypical skin manifestations of COVID that occur beyond the acute infection.
Okay, Doc, we appreciate it. As always, the weather is just looking incredible for the weekend and really for the next week, so enjoy that.
Yes, everybody. Have fun, get outside, enjoy the sun, and please be safe.
All right, thank you so much. Dr. Kent Hall from MVHS.